They say a wedding day is the most important day of your life, a day where you look around and see the people who love you the most, cheering for you, celebrating with you, standing by your side. But what if the people you needed most simply decided you weren't worth showing up for? What if the ones who raised you, the ones who were supposed to love you unconditionally, made you feel like you were invisible on the biggest day of your life? That's exactly what happened to me. While everyone else danced, laughed, and took pictures, there was this huge, empty space in the room, a space shaped like my parents. I tried to ignore it. But trust me, it's not easy to ignore a heartbreak that sits right there beside you. Growing up, I always believed love had conditions in my house. I had to perform, achieve, and impress just to earn a tiny bit of approval. If I failed at anything, it was like I didn't exist. My parents always acted like I wasn't enough, like they were ashamed of me for reasons I never understood. I wasn't the smartest like my older brother, not the favorite like my younger sister. I was just there. A ghost in my own family. I told myself that once I became successful, once I proved my worth, they'd finally look at me and say, "We're proud of you." But life doesn't always work the way you hope. When I met Emily, everything changed. She didn't see me as invisible. She believed in my dreams, even the ones that sounded impossible. She pushed me when I wanted to give up, and she celebrated every single win like it was huge. She made me feel like I mattered. Like I deserved love. And so when I proposed to her, I thought maybe this would be the moment my parents finally showed up, emotionally and physically. I invited them in every possible way. I sent them the wedding date 6 months early. I called them once a week to remind them. I tried everything. And every time I talked to them, they'd say, "We'll see," or "We're busy," like my wedding was just another event they could skip if something more important came along. A few days before the wedding, I asked them again just to be sure. My dad said, "Look, we'll try, but don't expect too much." My heart dropped. Why did I have to beg for the kind of love other kids got for free? My wedding day came. I kept turning around, checking the entrance every few minutes, praying they would walk in. Hoping that maybe, last minute, they'd surprise me. But time went by, and nothing. Not even a call. Not a single message. They just didn't come. They chose not to be there. To them, my happiness wasn't worth the effort. When the ceremony ended, guests came to congratulate us, but I was fighting back tears the entire time. Emily held my hand tighter, whispering that I had her, and that was enough. But deep down, anyone who's felt that kind of pain knows, some wounds don't heal just because someone tells you they love you. After the wedding, I made a promise to myself. I would never again chase people who didn't see my worth. I would focus on building a life where I felt valued. A life where I didn't need their approval. Emily and I worked non-stop. We invested time, sweat, and emotions into a business we believed in. We faced failures that nearly crushed us. We lost money we didn't even have. But each time we fell, we pushed harder. We kept telling ourselves that one day, success would come. Years went by, and step by step, everything we worked for finally paid off. Our business grew. Our ideas took off. We signed big deals. And suddenly, people who once doubted us started acting like they always believed we'd succeed. Isn't it funny how success changes everything? How the same people who ignore you when you're struggling suddenly show up when they see you shining? One day, we bought our dream home. A massive, beautiful mansion worth over $2 million. Something I never imagined having. A house with tall glass windows, huge gardens, a pool that sparkled under the sun, everything my younger self dreamed of but never thought he deserved. When I stood there, keys in hand, I couldn't help but think about all those times I felt unworthy. And how wrong I was. How badly I had underestimated myself. Emily wanted to celebrate. She said, "Invite your family. Maybe this is the moment things finally change." I hesitated. I didn't want to open myself up to being hurt again. but part of me still hoped my parents would finally look at me and be proud. So I sent them photos of the mansion and invited them over for dinner. I didn't mention the price, but they knew. News spreads fast in families that like to gossip. Within an hour, my phone rang. It was my mom, her voice suddenly soft, excited, and weirdly sweet. "Oh honey, why didn't you tell us sooner?" she said, like she hadn't ignored me for years. Like she hadn't skipped the biggest day of my life. "We're so proud of you. We'll come visit this weekend." My heart froze. Proud? Now? Only when they saw what I owned? I looked at the phone, and for a moment, I wanted to scream. Where was this love when I stood at the altar wishing they'd walk through the door? Where was this excitement when I needed them to show up, not just physically, but emotionally? It was clear as day, they didn't come because they loved me. They came because I finally had something to offer. Suddenly, I mattered, not as their child, but as someone who looked successful. That weekend, they arrived dressed like they were attending some luxury event. They walked into my home like it was theirs, touching the furniture, admiring every detail, bragging about me as if they always supported my dreams. My dad even said, "We always knew you'd make it." That one sentence cut deeper than all the years of silence. Because it wasn't true. They didn't believe in me. They didn't care about me. They cared about the mansion, the status, the way I now made them look. Inside, part of me was still that kid seeking approval, wanting to hug them and hear them say they loved me. But another part of me, a stronger part, knew better. And that part was getting ready to finally speak the truth. They sat on my expensive leather couch like they owned the place, smiling wide, pretending everything was normal, pretending they had always been a part of my life. My dad asked what business I was running, how much I made a month, how many employees I had. Not once did he ask if I was happy. Not once did he ask how my marriage was going. It was like they skipped every important chapter of my life and only showed up for the final page. My mom kept saying things like, "Imagine the parties we can host here, and your cousins will be so jealous." I stood there silently, feeling like I was watching strangers play the role of my parents. Emily brought out dinner, trying her best to make everything comfortable. She gave them the warm welcome they never gave me. She kept the conversation going, even though she knew exactly what was happening. I could see the disappointment in her eyes. She knew how badly I wanted this moment to feel meaningful. She was trying to protect my heart, even though she could see it cracking in front of her. My parents praised the food, complimented every decoration, bragged about me like they deserved the credit. It felt like my achievements were suddenly theirs to celebrate. After dinner, I tried to talk to them, really talk. I asked my mom why they didn't come to the wedding. She looked away and said, "We were busy," like it was the most normal excuse in the world. Busy. Too busy to attend your own son's wedding. Too busy to witness one of the biggest days of my life. My dad added, "You should understand, we had a lot going on." No apology. No regret. Just excuses that made it clear they didn't see anything wrong with what they did. I felt a fire burning inside me, a fire made from years of being ignored, years of feeling invisible. I couldn't hold it anymore. I told them how much it hurt, how I waited for them at the wedding, how every time the door opened, my heart hoped it was them. I told them I spent my whole life trying to make them proud, but I never felt good enough. My mom tried to laugh it off, saying I was being dramatic. My dad waved his hand like the pain I carried for years was just childish complaining. And that's when it hit me, they were never going to understand. They weren't sorry. They didn't care about what they did. They cared about what they could gain now. The mansion. The money. The image of having a successful son. They didn't come to reconnect. They came to claim a piece of my success. I took a deep breath and told them something I never thought I would say. I said, "This house, this life, none of it is because of you. It's in spite of you." Their smiles faded. My dad's eyebrows tightened. My mom's lips pressed together. For the first time that night, they weren't pretending anymore. I told them about every night I cried alone because I felt like I wasn't enough. I told them how I wished they showed up for me, not for my success, but for my struggles. I told them how Emily was the one who reminded me I was worth something when they made me believe I wasn't worth anything at all. And then I told them the truth that hurt the most. I had parents, but I grew up feeling like an orphan. My mom gasped, offended, like I had attacked her for no reason. My dad stood up and said, "Don't disrespect us in our presence." Our presence. In my house. Built with my pain, my sacrifice, my journey. My presence had never mattered in theirs. Emily stepped closer to me, placing her hand on my back, as if telling me she was right there, supporting me. And I needed that. Because saying those words felt like ripping open wounds I tried to bury for years. But they were wounds that needed to be exposed. My dad said if I wanted to continue being part of their family, I needed to show gratitude for everything they had done. Gratitude? For what? For absence? For neglect? For conditional love that appeared only when I became worthy in their eyes? I looked them straight in the eyes and asked, "Where was this family when I stood at the altar waiting for you?" Silence. They had no answer. Their eyes shifted away. Because sometimes, silence reveals more truth than words ever could. I told them I wasn't the same boy who begged for attention. I wasn't the child who cried himself to sleep thinking he didn't matter. I wasn't the invisible one anymore. And I wasn't going to let them walk back into my life only to take credit for things they never helped build. They stood there, stunned, like the reality had slapped them harder than any words could. My mom tried to soften her voice, saying, "We're here now." But it was too late. Showing up after success isn't love, it's convenience. I told them they could finish their dessert and leave. Because love isn't earned by money, and their sudden affection wasn't love at all. It was envy wrapped in fake pride. Emily squeezed my hand, whispering that she was proud of me. And for the first time ever, I felt proud of myself. Not for the mansion. Not for the success. But for finally choosing me. The night ended with them walking out the door, slower than they walked in. They looked back, hoping I'd stop them, but I didn't. I just stood there, knowing that letting them go was the first real act of self-respect I ever made. But I didn't know that wasn't the last time I'd see them. Because people like them don't give up that easily. They'd be back. Not for love, but for what they could take. And the storm that was coming would test everything I thought I finally understood. Everything seemed calmer after they left. I thought maybe that was the end of it, the end of pretending, the end of chasing a love that never existed. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had taken control of my own story. Emily and I sat out by the pool that night, staring at the lights reflecting off the water, talking about our future, talking about a family built on love, real love. I told her I wanted to be the kind of parent who never let their child feel invisible. She smiled and said she knew I would be. For a moment, I felt peace, a kind of peace I had never felt before. But the universe has a funny way of reminding you that some chapters don't close as easily as you wish they would. The very next morning, my phone buzzed non-stop. Calls. Messages. Notifications. I ignored them for a while, thinking it was just business. But when I finally picked up, I heard panic in my sister's voice. She said, "Mom and Dad are telling everyone you kicked them out of your house and embarrassed them." Just like that, the story was twisted. They weren't the parents who abandoned their son, no, they were the victims now. And I was the ungrateful child who pushed away his loving family. It hurt more than I expected. Instead of trying to understand why I finally stood up for myself, they tried to destroy the little piece of dignity I had earned. People in the family started calling, lecturing me, telling me I should apologize. Apologize for what? For speaking the truth? For finally demanding the love I deserved? For refusing to let them use me like a trophy? I realized then that love isn't just about the people who hurt you. It's also about the people who defend those who hurt you. And I wasn't going to live in that cycle anymore. Emily suggested we take a break from everything and go on a trip. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere far from drama. We booked a flight and left the country a few days later. We spent nights on beaches, mornings in mountains, making memories that healed the parts of me still bleeding. It was the first time in years that I woke up and didn't feel a weight on my chest. The world looked new when you weren't trying to impress people who would never clap for you. But peace doesn't make the past disappear. One night during the trip, Emily came out of the bathroom holding her phone, tears in her eyes. My heart stopped. I asked what was wrong. She handed me the phone silently, and there it was, a message from my mom. Not a message asking how I was. Not a message apologizing. It was a message demanding to know why we hadn't sent the money yet. Money. That's what it came down to. Not love. Not family. Money. My mom wrote, if you're so successful, you should be helping the people who raised you. People who raised me? She forgot the raising part. She forgot the love part. All they remembered was the obligation part. And now that they saw my success, they wanted a share. I stared at the message for a long time, my chest tight, anger rising through every cell in my body. They didn't want a relationship. They wanted access. Emily hugged me and said, you owe them nothing. She was right. But a small part of me still felt guilty, still felt responsible for the happiness of people who ensured I grew up without it. I typed a reply. I didn't yell, didn't blame, didn't explain. I simply wrote, I don't owe you anything you didn't give me. Goodbye. And I blocked them. When we returned home, everything felt different. The mansion wasn't just a building anymore, it was a symbol. A symbol of everything I survived. Everything I built from emptiness. I walked through the halls, thinking about the boy who once stayed awake wondering why he wasn't enough. That boy wouldn't believe where he ended up. That boy wouldn't believe he got out. And most of all, that boy wouldn't believe he finally found love, real love. Time passed. Seasons changed. My parents stayed silent, maybe waiting for me to crawl back. But I never did, because I realized something powerful: DNA doesn't make a family. Support does. Love does. Showing up does. And the people who truly loved me were right here beside me. One afternoon, I sat in the living room, holding a small photograph from my childhood, me on a bicycle, alone, while my parents stood in the background, uninterested. That little boy deserved better. And I decided I would be the one to give him the better he always needed. I closed my eyes and whispered, you matter. Words I never heard from the ones who should have said them first. That night, Emily told me she was pregnant. Tears filled my eyes instantly. Not tears of fear. Tears of joy. Tears of healing. Tears of finally breaking a generation of conditional love. I hugged her like she was holding my entire heart, because she was. I promised her, and the tiny life inside her, that our family would be built on presence, care, and love that never needed to be earned. Standing in my mansion, the same place that once reminded me of everything I lacked, I realized it now represented everything I gained. Not wealth. Not status. But freedom. The freedom to love without pain, to live without begging, to exist without proving my worth. My parents once ignored my wedding because I wasn't enough in their eyes. But now I knew the truth, I was always enough. I just needed to stop looking for validation from people who didn't know how to love. Their absence at my wedding wasn't a loss. It was a lesson. A painful lesson that led me to a life where I was finally seen. Some stories don't end with a perfect family reunion. Some stories end with peace, peace you give yourself when you finally choose your own heart. And that is exactly what I did.